My name is Salvador Campos, and I'm 87 years old, and I've been in Carpinteria since I was 3.
And what year were you born in?
In 1926.
Okay.
In East LA.
Uh-huh. So tell me some about your life.
Well, my life was growing up in 9th Street. My dad came to Carpinteria, and Carpinteria was barely any people at that time. You know, it was small. And
when you lived on 9th Street then?
We lived on 9th Street, and then from there we went to Old Town, and we moved into a house that was a 2-story house, and it was supposed to be haunted. But we just heard a few noises, but nothing to really speak of, you know. But you did hear noises in the house.
And where was Old Town?
That's, you know where Delgado's is now? And the house was about 4 houses over from Delgado's down.
And was that the center of town at that time?
There was not much. That was the entrance of town. And from there on, it was Carpenter Avenue, and the main streets was 7th Street. Carpenter Avenue and 7th Street. You know where 7th Street is now? Yes. And that was one of the main streets. And then, from that 2-story house, we moved into 9th Street, and my dad bought a little house, a little 2-room house, but that had a room in the back, and some of my brothers were in the other room. And then he bought a church on Upson Road. Do you ever hear of that church in Upson Road?
Not that I know of.
I've got a picture of it right here.
Was it moved here? Or?
No, my dad bought the church. He tore it down board by board. And at that time, I think I was about 8 or 9 years old. And we brought all the lumber down on horses. He got them from, I can't remember his name. They had that big field right there. It's all apartments now, right there behind the creek.
Here in Carpinteria?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And he had the horses, and one of the big carriages that they used to haul the beans in, he borrowed, I don't know how he done it, but he had horses, and he'd give me that thing so he could roll a cigarette, and the horses would go crooked on me, because I was about 8 or 9, you know, and then he'd straighten them out. And I guess it was kind of hard to get a truck or something, but he ended up with horses. We ended up with horses.
And what did he build with the wood?
Yeah, he built I've got a picture of the house here if you want to see it.
Show me the picture of the house.
Yeah. Let's see.
Okay, so what's that a picture of?
That's a Catholic church up on Upson Road.
In Carpinteria?
In Carpinteria.
And he bought it.
He bought it for $50.
$50?
Yeah.
In about what year?
In 1934, I think. 34.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
And then from that church, he built this house in 9th Street.
Tilt it down just a little. Okay, that's good. Okay, good.
Yeah, he built that. It's all red wood, and it had 4 square nails on it when they tore it down. I don't know how they tore it down without breaking the lumber, but you know, they saved every board. And the windows are on the chapel there on 7th Street, and my dad donated the windows, because when they were building that, they didn't have church windows. So he had all the windows in a garage, and when they done the church, he gave them to him. And the bell on top of the chapel is the one that was on top of this church right here. My dad, I think they said they wanted the bell, so he took it down for them and gave it to them.
Well, what did your father do for a living?
When they came here, he was picking lemons. But he was a good cement man. He used to do cement work. And he was no carpenter, but him and a little guy built that house. And it made a big house. They made a good-sized house out of it.
Where was your father born?
He was born in Jalisco, Mexico. And I think they came in 1910. They came across, and I remember we've got a picture that he used to come and go. They'd come and go like going to Santa Barbara, you know. My dad came from a family that had a huge ranch. I mean, they were not poor. And every time my dad went up there, his dad would give him 40 acres so he could farm them. But my dad was not into farming, so he'd sell them and then he'd come back to the States. And I don't know why he came down here, because all he had to do here was come and work, you know. And but my dad and that man built a house, and it wasn't very straight, but the old man was supposed to be a carpenter, and my dad was his helper. And I remember they keep telling me to get out of the way because I was small. And my dad, he done pretty good. He done a lot of work around here. He used to do cement work. He'd do some driveways and sidewalks for people and stuff like that. But
So tell me about growing up, what you did and where you went to school and so on.
yeah, I went to school. I don't know if you remember that two-story building that used to be there where the tennis courts were at the junior high.
Yes.
You remember a two-story building used to be there?
I've seen pictures of it, yes.
Okay, I went to kindergarten there.
Do you remember what the name of it was?
It was Union High School.
Uh-huh.
It was the high school, but they had a room on top that was for kindergarten or something like that.
Uh-huh.
And then I went to school where the fire department is. I think it was first or second grade. And then they built the Aliso school where it's at now. And I went to school there. And we used to, at that time they had about 18 kids in a classroom. And by the time I got to the 8th grade, they had 40 in a classroom. You can imagine how they started building. I mean, the population started getting bigger. And
What was the reason that the population got bigger?
well, more people kept coming down from LA from the Depression. You know, there was no work in LA at all. That's the reason we came down. Because my dad was with his brother in LA, and his brother was a cement contractor. And work got so scarce that somehow they ended up in Carpinteria. They said they heard that there was work picking lemons.
And
So they
what-
came down here.
Was there work picking lemons?
Yeah, they started picking lemons, and so I got a picture I can show them later of a crew of lemon pickers, of the first ones that you could see. They used to go out in bicycles and go pick lemons on bicycles.
Staying on the bicycles? and picking
They'd
them?
go pick the lemons, yeah. And in the old days was very primitive, you know, everything in the old days. So then we kept going to Aliso, and as you can see, here's some of the Aliso picture.
Okay. So,
I'm in there.
okay, I'll get a picture of it. Got those folks. Where are you? Which is you?
This guy with his hands folded.
Oh,
You got it?
yeah.
That's
Okay,
me.
nice. So tell me about Aliso. Was it segregated?
Yes, it was completely segregated.
And so it was all. What did you call it? Mexican, Hispanic, or how would it be called at the time?
Well, it wasn't. It was just called Aliso School.
And what type of people went there?
All Mexicans. I mean, it was all Mexican. And we just used to, they used to get after us for talking Spanish. We were not supposed to talk Spanish when we went out in the field. And the teachers were always watching for us to make sure that we didn't talk Spanish. But what made it rough is that you talked a lot of Spanish. Then when you went to high school, they always used to laugh at your English because you had a lot of Spanish with your English, and they used to laugh at you. So you felt kind of funny, you know, that,
Inferior?
yeah, right. So then we used to, at that time, we didn't have showers or baths at home. They used to put a tub out in the middle of the yard.
The schoolyard?
No, in my mother's house.
Yeah.
To take a bath. So I think every Saturday was bath day. And they put you in the middle of the yard, and boy, you were out there with hot water, and they'd give you a bath. But then at Aliso, they put in showers. At the end of the school, in the back of the school, they put in a building with showers. So you would go take showers, and they would had a schedule, and everybody would go take a shower.
Why was
So that was good, because people didn't have baths at home. So it was that rough, you know. Things were not easy. It was things were very primitive.
Now, did you have a choice to go to the white kid school, or how did you call them white kids?
Well, it all depends on where you lived. That side of town was all Aliso, and that side of town was all the white kids. So it was according to where you lived. And I think there was some families that went to the school of the white kids. And then, at that time, for the first and second grades, and this picture that I show you of the young kids, the school was right there where the fire department is. That's where the school used to be. Then they tore that down and they made main school. You know the main school?
Yes.
Yes, and main school is really built. That thing was really built in them days. And all the kids, the white kids, used to go to school in tents.
Why is that?
Yeah, because they had knocked the school down. The school.
The one that was at where the police department is?
Yeah,
Yeah.
where the fire department is.
Fire department?
They tore all that down, so they didn't have no school. So they had them in tents. So they went to school in tents at that time. And I think that was about 36, something like that. 1936, yeah.
And did white kids and Mexican kids socialize together and get along?
Yeah, we never had any problems. So anyway, after main school was built, so we were at Aliso, and then main school was built. And then the teachers used to say, okay, we're going to go play baseball against the white kids. So let's go beat them up. So we'd go play baseball against the white kids. So the teachers would say, let's go see the white ones. That's what they used to call them, you know, let's go see the white ones. And that's about how it went. And as things went by, we all grew up and I went into 9th grade. Then from 9th grade, I wasn't doing too good. So I went to the 10th grade about 2 weeks, and then I quit. And then I went to pick lemons and start working out in the field. And then the war started. And then everybody started going into the war. And all the boys that you see in these pictures, everybody went to fight. Everybody went into the service. And my oldest brother...
And this is World War II.
World War II. My oldest brother was one of the first guys that got drafted. And he got married so they wouldn't draft him, and they took him anyway. So when he came back, he had a 3-year-old little girl. And he was up there in Italy, done his fighting there, got wounded 3 times, and got a Bronze Star for saving some guys' lives, you know, and he done real good. So.
What did you do when you were in the war?
I was in the Navy, a seaman. So I was on a landing ship. Those that land, you open the doors and the tanks roll out.
Huh.
Yeah, it was. When I first went to boot camp, and I got out of boot camp, and they were sending me on a ship, and I saw that thing. I said, "Is that a ship?" It looked like a bathtub. You know, I said, that's the ugliest thing I've ever seen, and I'm in the Navy. So anyway, they threw me on that thing, and they came out and, okay, I said, here's your weapon. Yeah, they gave me a paint scraper for scraping paint.
That was your weapon?
Yeah, they gave me a paint scraper and said, yeah, that's your weapon. This is my weapon, yeah. You know, I was 17 when I joined, so I was still just a young, dumb guy, you know.
Did you lie about your age to get?
No, my mother signed so I could go. And anyway, they gave me a paint scraper, and they're the roughest things afloat in the water. They're flat bottom. And I'll show you later. I've got a model that a guy made me from Philadelphia, and it's all made out of wood. And he done it for.
And where were you during the war?
Well, we went to. First, we went up to San Francisco, and we went to a place where there's nothing but mud flats, and we were supposed to be training to invade on the China coast. So that was kind of a training session, you know. And we had Marines with us, and we would go as far as we could go in the water, and we'd get stuck in the mud. So then the Marines would jump out, and they'd come back up to their waist all wet with water. And we're up there in the top with real clean and dry and smoking cigarettes, you know. And the guys looked at us and they'd say a few swearing words and say, we sure joined the wrong outfit. Look at those guys, how dry they are, you know. So finally it wasn't working, what we were doing. And then they put those guys on some mosquito boats with a propeller in the back. And they put 4 Marines in it and they would slide through the mud. And then from there on, we went overseas and we went to Hawaii. And then from Hawaii, we went to Enewetak.
Were you in Hawaii during Pearl Harbor?
No. Oh, no.
Before that?
No, when we went in there, it was in 45. In 45, you know, 41. That was quite a few years later. There was a lot of fighting that had been going on before we went there. So we went to Hawaii, and then from Hawaii, Enewetak, then went to Guam, then we went to Saipan, and from Saipan we used to watch the big bombers take off to go bomb Japan, and we'd watch them come back with full of holes, and they were still flying.
Really?
Yeah.
How did they get the holes?
From the Japanese anti-aircraft guns. So I was in Saipan when they were doing all the bombing in Japan, and then from there we went to Okinawa, and the Okinawa was a big invasion. Oh God, they used to send 500 suicides at a time.
What do you mean suicides?
Yeah, Japanese airplanes come and dive into the American ships. It was, Okinawa was worse than any other invasion they ever had. Because it took 3 months to secure it. And the Japanese figured that they were going to fight to the death. So they would send these kamikazes come in and dive into the... So when we went, they had just secured Okinawa. But the kamikazes were still coming, you know. And we were loaded with ammunition. So they filled us with smoke. So I didn't see nothing. We didn't really get to see any action at all. But we could hear the airplanes coming and the big ships would knock them down. And that's just about when the war ended. And then we hit a big typhoon that came in and wiped out Okinawa. It just threw everything on the beach. We went and we were riding that typhoon, just like a little match on a... It was, the waves were so big, they were about 40, 50 feet high. And they would cover the ship and you'd go up like a cork and it acted like it was going to break in half. Then you'd go down again and meet another one. And
what type of ship were you on? Were you on the
landing ship,
boat?
the flat bottom one, yeah.
How many people could go in one of those boats?
We had 60 people.
And were there a lot of flat bottom boats together?
Oh, they made hundreds of them.
Yeah.
Of those, because the LSM was made on account of the LST. You know, heard of the LST? The LST is a big landing ship tank, but it was kind of heavy for some places, and they made a lighter one, which was the LSM, landing ship medium. And so we survived that typhoon, and you know, I worked for the school district for many years, and Dr. Cardi and I were talking Navy one day, and he was in the Navy, and I told him about that typhoon. Oh, he said, I was in that typhoon. You mean you were in Okinawa at that time? Oh yeah, I was there. His ship was completely demolished. He had to, after that, they sent him and another guy to burn his ship to get rid of it. Then he says, they gave me a medal for burning my ship, Sal. What do you think? Oh God. But he was really, I don't even know how they survived. I mean, his ship was completely demolished. But there was all kinds of ships were sunk, some were thrown on the beach. And if we'd had to invade Japan, we'd have had a hard time because a lot of those ships were crippled. So anyway, that's as far as the Navy goes, you know. But
well, what was life like in the Navy? What was it? Were the guys nice? What were the guys you were like with?
Well, I'll tell you what. When I went on that ship, they were all from back east. So I went in there, and I'm coming down the ladder, and they look at me. And, hey, he said, are you a WAP? A WAP? I said, what's a WAP? I didn't know what a WAP was. Oh, they said, Italian. Oh, no, I said. Me, Mexican. Oh, you're Mexican. Yeah, all right. So they were all from back east, and they were trained on a special training for those kind of ships, for landing ship. But one guy went over the hill, and I went in and took his place. So that's how I ended up on that LSM, and it was good duty. It was just like a civilian ship. You didn't act too Navy. The officers were real good.
Well, did you live in those flat?
Oh yeah.
So is it enclosed?
Yeah.
There's cabins and all.
Yeah, we lived in a room, about 16 guys in a about 10 by 20. We're stacked man, we really lived in close quarters. And we had a captain that was so good that he said, well, boys, he said, let's see your ID cards. He made all of us ID cards that we were all 21. He said, if you're old enough to die, you're old enough to go buy a beer. So I had a phony ID card. I was 21 years old and I was 18 on that ID card. So he was very good captain. He was Grossman. He was Jewish. And he always had a cigar, like you see in the movies. He always had a cigar. And,
did the people of different nationalities and cultures get along well, or there wasn't segregation?
No. There was one that I kind of had troubles with, but I kind of took care of him. I don't want to talk about it.
Really? Can't you tell me how you took care of him?
Well, I'm shaving, and he's shaving next to me. And he looked at me and real mean. He got about a 35-year-old man, He said, boy, he says, the only thing wrong with this war is having to put up with all kinds of people like you. And I looked at him. Well, I said, I'm here because they sent me, not because I wanted to. But if you want to do something about it, let's get with it. And I was young, I wasn't afraid, Said, let's get with it. You touch me and I'll kill you. Oh, he says, so I can kill you too, I told him. And I had a nice marine knife on my belt that I used to carry. No, he stood away, got away from me. And he never bothered me, and we never talked to each other. He was from Carolina or something like that. Smith was his name. And
so you found by standing up to him?
Yeah, I had to stand up to him. I didn't back off to anybody. Yeah, I thought I was tough, but I really wasn't. I was a bluff.
Have you been in any fights in your time?
Yeah?
Like when you were a kid, were you in any fights?
Yeah, I got into a fight one time.
Sorry? Yeah, tell me.
When I was 15, I had my first fight. There in 9th Street when we were growing up, these guys used to come, and one guy, Larry Zavala, he was kind of the leader of the gang around in there. And he said, come here, you and so. Let's see, we're going to have a fight. They put a piece of wood on my shoulder, and this guy came and he knocked it off my shoulder, Then they put a piece of wood on his shoulder. So I went in and I knocked it off. When I knocked it off, he let me have one right in the face.
Really?
He smacked me a good one. Well, I said, I guess this guy really wants to fight. So we got at it, and we went up and down 9th Street, up and down. And I had him going all the time. So we got to the end of his aunt's house, and there was a chain link fence, and he stood there, and then he called me, hey, you SOB. That was a bad word in them days. When he said that, I got at him and he couldn't go any farther, and I let him have it. And then they separated us, and that was my biggest fight that I really ever had.
How did you know how to fight? Had you practiced with your brothers?
Well, we had a little gym across the creek, and my oldest brother used to train us to fight. And he always said that we were going to make fighters out of us, and he was training us to fight. And so anyway, I got pretty good at throwing a jab, and that really helped. Because on the ship one time, we were traveling and we had tanks at the ship, and there was a spot, about maybe as big as this dining room here. Then this guy comes out, and he was a good-sized guy. George Miller, I remember his name. He had the gloves. I said, all right, he said, who wants to put the gloves on with me? And nobody wanted to fight with him. Then the captain looks down and he says, "Hey, Cisco." Oh, they used to call me Cisco because they showed a movie of the Cisco Kid. And from that day, I was baptized. Everybody called me the Cisco Kid because I was the only Mexican on there. Cisco. "Hey, Cisco," the captain was up on the tower. "Put him on with him." "No, Captain," I said, "he's too big for me." No, he said, "You can take him. If he beats me up, you're responsible." "Yes, I'm responsible if he beats you up." He says, "Go on." So, all right. So anyway, I put the gloves on with that guy. So the guy comes at me like this, the gloves, and he wouldn't hit me. So, well, I said, what the heck? I let him have a jab right in the nose. Then he came at me, swinging, and he knocked me down on the floor, and he's on top of me, and they had to pull him off, He was heavier than me, about 40 pounds. Anyway, they pulled him off. Oh, God. Well, okay, should I quit or what, Well, come on. And he's coming back again like this. And he wouldn't strike, Oh, well, I let him have another good one in the nose. Then he came at me, and when he came at me, I sidestepped, and I hit him in the back of the head, and he went down. Man, he came up, he pulled the gloves off, and he threw them on the floor. Oh my God, I said, he's going to come at me barehanded. What am I going to do? He'll kill me barehanded, because he was heavier. And he says, "Where in the hell did you get such long arms?" And walked away. I think, thank God he walked away. From that day, I got famous. They thought that I was a real fighter, which I really wasn't. And they thought that I was pretty doggone good.
I guess you must have gotten out of some fights by just talking,
Yeah.
talking too, though.
Yeah.
You didn't fight on purpose.
No,
You didn't have to.
no. Then we had a smoker one time. The ships got together. I think that was in Saipan. And they had a smoker, and they had a ring, and they got some guys that were supposed to fight. And here they sent me because they thought I was one of the fighters on the ship. And they sent me to fight. And, oh, no, I said, yeah, you're elected. You're going to be one of the guys and go fight a guy. So they got a guy up there. They're putting, the doctor is checking your pulse and everything, your high blood pressure, and they've got him. I'm looking at the guy that I'm going to fight, and boy, he was a 6-footer. He looked pretty good, Hijo, man. I said, what am I going to do with that guy? No, that one, he was a little guy. Oh, I said, that's chicken feed. I'm going to take him. And he had high blood pressure, and he couldn't fight. So then they bring this other guy, the 6-footer. He said, Hijo, man. I said, I'm going to have, well, here we go. That guy was in good shape. He came in, and we fought two rounds. And he hit me one, and I'd hit him one. He hit me one, and I'd hit him one. He hit me one, and I'd hit him one. He was pretty good. So we not won. On the second round, we were not trained for fighting. I could barely lift my arms up, I was. And then he was about the same way. He came at me, and he'd hit me one, and I'd hit him one. He hit me one. So I survived the 2 rounds. Then, oh, God, I went. Then the judge said, well, he says, we're going to have to call this a draw. So they called it a draw. I didn't lose, and he didn't lose, and we didn't win. None of us did. They called it a draw. Then all my guys said, Cisco, you had him. Why didn't you had him? Heck, you guys, I said, I could barely lift my arms. I could barely lift my arms. And you had him. Heck, I could barely.
That's funny.
It didn't even hurt anymore. He hit me one, and it didn't even hurt, So you run out of steam. So that's why, the boxers, they train so much. I mean, they can go 15 rounds, and it's a wonder how they can last that long. But 2 rounds, heck, I was ready to die on the second round.
So back to the fact you're in the war, and you want to tell me about your life from the war on?
Yeah.
Tell me.
Well, then I came home, and what did I do? Well, we're looking for work, and I got a job in the packing house, in the Lemons. And this guy, Luis Peña, got a job there with me. And Luis Peña was in the Philippines, and he was on an aircraft carrier that got hit by a kamikaze, and they sunk it. And he swam for 3 hours before they picked him up.
Wow.
And he survived, and he came home. So we're out there at the packing house. And then this boss, he was kind of mean. He comes around and says, what's the matter with you guys? Can't you work a little faster? Then Luis Peña looked at him and said, well, he said, for the wages that you're paying us, that's about the speed you're getting from us. He says, get out of here, you're fired. He fired Luis Peña right off the bat. Well, I said, if Luis Peña's going to go, I'm going with him. So, well, I said, you're firing him, fire me too, I'm going. So we went. Then we started looking, and we went to pick lemons, you pick beans. There was all kinds of work. You could pick tomatoes. They were growing tomatoes in Carpinteria. Then I started hauling.
Where were the bean fields?
Right here in my house, where we're at, sitting right here.
And where can you tell the audience where your house is?
Right here.
Yeah, what's the address?
1493 Andrea Street. And that it used
El Caro and near
Caro and Andrea and
near St. Joseph's Church.
St. Joseph's Church. All this was beans in that time. And then lemons. They became lemons. And then the avocados started coming in. And they took over the lemons. But no, and then
so you went to look to pick beans.
yeah,
and
then I started. My cousin came down, the one I tell you that joined the army in Juarez, and he started hauling lemons, and he got me in as his swamper, so I was his swamper, and then I met my wife. Excuse me a second, I'll tell him I'm busy. Hello? Bueno? Hey. Okay, I'll call you later. I'm busy right now. I'm getting an interview with Larry Nimmer. You know Larry. Okay. Well, get the phone, Grandma. Was home lemon, so we started home.
hold on a second. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, then. And Ruben was hauling. I'll tell you a funny story about my cousin Ruben. That he joined the Marines in Juarez. And I'm watching a DVD of the invasion of Saipan. And he says, well, when we invaded Saipan, I was driving a tank. You know, he was driving a tank going up the beach. And I'm watching a DVD of the invasion of Saipan. And I'm watching this tank going up the beach. And in the back of this tank, it said Juarez. Who would put Juarez on his tank? And I stopped it and I got a picture of it. I've got it there somewhere. But I figured it had to be him. He had Juarez in the back of the tank with spray paint. And anyway, and then about that time, I met my wife.
Right.
And I started going with her. And Ruben used to say, every time that I was going to have a date with my wife, I used to throw the boxes like as if they were empty. And they were 60-pound boxes. It made my arms had muscles on them like Schwarzenegger, you know, at that time. And then, right after that, I didn't have a car. So, you know, it was right after the war, you know, and there were no cars to buy. The car lots didn't even have cars. So, excuse me a second.
Okay. I'm sorry.
Huh?
Yeah. What did you do?
I bought this car. It belonged to some rancher.
What type of car is
It's
it?
a 1937 Packard.
Is that you in front of it?
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
that's
Okay.
me. Okay.
Good.
And I bought that car, and I paid $700 for that car in 1947. And it was just like new. Oh, it was a beautiful car. They used to call me Dillinger in town.
Dillinger?
Yeah, kind of that car, you know. It was the only fancy car. Yeah. And what happened, you see, when I went in the Navy, I mean, my dad died when I was about 12. So I went in the Navy. So when I went in the Navy, I told him that I didn't have no father and my mother didn't have no money to live with on. So they gave her, half of my pay went to my mother and half of my pay went to me. So Heka used to get $80 a month, so she used to get 40 and I used to get 40. And when I came home, she saved every penny that I sent her.
Really?
Yeah. How she done it, I don't know, but she had me a little stack of money saved up when I came home. So I went and I paid cash for my Packard, $700 in them days. And that was a car that I started hauling this lady around. And we ended up getting married.
See you later. Bye.
So,
And tell me how many kids did you have, and what are their names?
I had 5. I had Jimmy, Art, Danny, Graciela, and Ellis. So, Jimmy, you probably knew Jimmy. He was principal at Main School. And Art became a journalist. He graduated out of USC. And he worked for the Sacramento Bee in Sacramento. God, he's still there. He's been there about 40 years now in Sacramento. And then we have Danny, and he's a school carpenter now. You probably know Danny.
I do.
Yeah. And Graciela, my daughter, works at the office. She pays the bills.
I know her.
And Alice lives in Goleta, and you don't know her. Yeah. And she graduated out of Cal Poly. They all went to college except Danny. Danny didn't want to go.
And they all seem successful.
They've all done real good.
Why do you think they have and some people haven't?
Well, I think what they had was a good daddy and mother. My wife got a job at junior high. Tyson Wilson said that anybody that have kids like we have can come over and help my kids. So,
Yeah, show us what you have there.
yeah,
Jimmy.
Can you stand next to your husband?
yeah.
Mira.
Oh, that's Jimmy getting his doctorate.
Okay, tilt the top down a bit. Okay. And tilt it down. Yeah. Oh, okay, good. There he is. Okay, nice.
Right.
That's Jimmy Campos.
Okay. So then Tyson, he hired my wife because said we had such good kids that she can come and help anybody. So she went.
In account of my kids.
Yeah. She went and she put in 20 years at junior high.
Really?
Yeah. And she used to help all the Mexican kids with their homework,
Whatever.
with their work. And my wife came from Mexico, but she had some good schooling up there.
School.
I mean, she came here and she learned English right away. And she got her driver's license and she knocked a few poles here and there, but she done real good. And no, she put in 20 years at junior high, and after that, what I figured when I was working at the school, Larry, I started as a custodian. Well, tell me, I worked at a ranch. I don't know if you ever heard of Bonnebacher.
No.
He had the ranch down here, and he was a prisoner for the Japanese for 3 or 4 years.
Oh, yeah.
And he was a big Dutchman, and so I worked at the ranch there, and I didn't care really for the ranch work, so I opened up a shoe repair shop. And I had learned shoe repair right after I got out of the Navy. I worked under the GI for a shoe repairman, and I learned our shoe repair business. So I opened up the shoe repair shop in town. And so even Grandma used to go help me fix shoes at the shoe repair shop.
I used to sew my shoes by hand and sew with the machine.
Yeah.
And I help him a little.
Yeah, and you know the thing that she used to get tips and I didn't. Yeah, and then I belonged at that time when it was in 55 or 54 that I belonged to the fire department. And I tried to get in with the fire department. And you know, Carpinteria was still segregated at that time. And a Mexican wouldn't get a good job, really. And I tried to get in steady and they wouldn't hire me.
No.
They'd hire white people that didn't even were auxiliary firemen. So I said, wait a minute. And one time he came in and said, well, how come you didn't show up to this fire? I said, because you haven't hired me. Here, take your boots, your coat, and everything. And I told him, get out of here. So I told the fire chief to beat it. Anyway, then the molded shoes started coming in.
The what?
Molded shoes that are molded, you know. So the people were not putting half soles anymore. And business started going bad.
Yeah.
So then from there on, I got a job at the school working as a custodian at night. So I was working cheapers day and night. I started driving the St. Joseph, the kids for Mount Carmel. I started driving the school bus to Mount Carmel. And then I'd come back. Oh, I had to quit the shoe repair shop in town because business was no good. So I was working part-time at the school at night. Then I got a job driving the kids to Mount Carmel. And then from there, I would go to Santa Barbara and work in a shoe repair shop on Mission and De La Vina. And then I'd come bring the kids home. And then I'd come have supper. And then I'd go work at night. And I was putting in 15 hours a day. And then I started having kids, you know, and then I started graduating at the school. So I got in as a bus driver, and then I got in as a warehouseman, and I became supervisor. I was in charge of all the school buses. So I went to the highway patrol in Sacramento for 3 weeks, and I got a certificate for training bus drivers. So then I put in 34 years at the school district and retired out of there. But one thing that helped me working at the school district, seeing all these teachers that were educated, you know, and stuff like that, I figured I'm going to make sure that all my kids go to college. And somehow they all went. Except Danny, he cheated out. He told me that they didn't want him at City College, and that was a lie, you know. But he's doing good. He's done pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, did you tell me before that after the war there was less segregation because the Mexicans worked right along with everybody else, or?
Well, you know, after everybody came back from the war, they started feeling, hey, why should we start getting pushed around? And all the guys, even at the theater, they used to separate you. And when the guys came back from the war, they'd go sit where they wanted to, and they wouldn't take any bull anymore. So they figured, well, let's just let people get together. And everybody started getting together again, and the schools started getting together again. So the segregation was over in about 1947 or 48, something like that.
But up to then at the Plaza Theater here in town?
Oh, yeah, they used to separate you. Yeah. Everything was segregated in the old days. So it was, Carpinteria was a segregation town. What was that the ranchers wanted the Mexicans to pick the lemons. So they didn't want them to go out and get good jobs. They just wanted you to be a lemon picker. And that's what the ranchers had a lot to do with it in them days.
There used to be worker housing, didn't there, at the end of the Santa Barbara end of Carp Avenue?
Worker housing?
Where
Oh, yeah.
So tell me about
Yeah,
that.
okay. Right in front of Aliso on the side, they made a camp for all well, during the war, they brought a lot of people from Mexico, and they were on a contract for picking lemons. They called it the Bracero program. Did you ever hear of it?
Yeah.
The Bracero program. And they all came, a lot of people came from Mexico, and they built Quonset huts, like Army, and they had all the guys living there. And then there was a motel, and it's right, you know where Reyes Market is right now?
Yes.
Reyes Market? Right there as a motel, used to be a motel. So the Carpinteria Lemon took over the motel, or CLA, they took over the motel and they put in all the braceros there. And then they had a big hall. There used to be a kitchen, so they made a kitchen for them, and they used to cook for them in the hall. And it was all braceros there. And yeah, now you're bringing back memories to me. Yeah.
Well, did the Braceros have families, or were they by themselves?
No, they'd come by themselves.
And were they only here?
A lot of them never went back. They married women from here, and they didn't go back. And like, well, did you know the Cheverias?
Yeah.
You know Sylvia?
Yeah.
Her dad was a bracero, and he came and he married his wife, and he never went back and stayed here, and he became a carpenter instead of picking lemons. He done real good, and he had about 7 or 8 girls, a lot of kids, and they lived right here on Andrea Street.
The Bracero program, did the workers come here for part of the year and go back to Mexico
Yeah.
part of the year?
They would come in on about a year contract or something like that. I don't remember exactly how it went, but no, a lot of the braceros never went back to Mexico. They stayed here. Yeah.
So, what were some of the big events in your lifetime? What were some of the big historical events or personal events?
What do you mean, like?
Well, I
no,
guess you've told me about World War II,
Yeah.
and do you recall any floods or fires or things like that here in town?
Oh, yeah. When we lived in 9th Street and I was a kid, 9th Street used to flood all the time. And I had some boards that I had nailed together and it used to be my raft.
Really?
Oh, and I was hoping the place would flood, and my mother was praying, please don't let it flood. You know, and I was hoping for it to flood so I could use my raft. Because the creek was not built then, you know, it was all dirt.
Oh.
And the street was all dirt in there. And it was, to me, it was fun.
Did you get to use your raft?
Yeah, I used to go out with those boards and push it around, you know. But after I moved here, we had the big flood. What was it in 60? I came here in 64. 50 years ago. I've been here 50 years. And we had the big flood. Remember even Reagan came down when we had that big flood?
I don't, but
Yeah, Reagan was the big chief of California at that time.
the
Yeah,
governor.
Governor. He was governor. And he came down and he walked around Carpinteria and went to Kramer Track, really got flooded. Kramer Track, the older town, got pretty flooded in there. And 9th Street got flooded completely, you know. And that was a big flood. Then that was very interesting. I was already working at the school when the flood came.
Honey,
Yeah.
but when he came, honey,
Yeah.
What else?
Well, do you remember when the freeway came in and how did that affect things?
The freeway came in and it helped a lot of people. A lot of people got new homes, you know, that they tore their homes and they built new homes for them. So that was pretty good. The freeway done real good coming through Carpinteria. But before it was just a 2-lane all the way to Santa Barbara. And it was dangerous. Man, they were always having head-on crashes and stuff like that. Yeah.
Did the freeway kind of divide the town in half, though? Was that a problem that went right through
Yeah. Mm-hmm. See, like we're on this side of the freeway.
the mountainside? Yeah.
Right. And that other side of the freeway. So now people said, if you're living on that side of the freeway, you're living over there with the rich people. So we're living here with the rich people here on this side. Because, Vallecito is the place where all the big shots used to live. Vallecito was a fancy place in Carpinteria. So, and now Vallecito you don't even have sidewalks or anything, you know, it's not that great, but it's a nice little area, you know. You know Vallecito.
Yeah.
Yeah. But Vallecito was where all the big wheels used to live in them days. When I was a kid, Vallecito was, even the teachers lived in Vallecito and they used to rent or buy houses there, I don't know, but...
And then the beachfront property was not valuable.
Oh, God, no, it was nothing. At that time, it was nothing but a slough. Right now where it's all the big fancy motels and apartments, it was all slough. And it was just like a mud flat. And the guys used to take their Model Ts, especially Johnny Rodriguez. I don't know if you remember Johnny Rodriguez. He was one of the big electricians here in town. He used to go with his Model T and slide all over the mud, you know. And him and some other guys had Model Ts. The only ones that had Model Ts were some of the big shots, you know, because nobody could own a car at that time. And it was all mud flats, nothing but mud flats. And it's unbelievable that they hold the foundations and all those big buildings in there. But it's all full of apartments now.
You're talking about Second Beach and Third Beach. And,
Yeah.
Yeah.
3rd and 4th Street and all that. And yeah.
Do you remember Thunderball, the racetrack?
Oh, yeah.
What was that like?
Oh, they had a racetrack and you would go sit up on the sides and you would watch them. But they used to have some pretty good car crashes there in them days. Frank Colson was one of the big wheels up there at that time. And
Where was that?
yeah. Well, you know where City Hall is?
Yes.
Right up above City Hall, down There's some big fancy buildings in there now.
Yes.
Right in there.
In the bluffs, yeah.
Right on the bluffs.
Uh-huh.
That's where the Thunderbolt used to be.
What did people do in their free time when you were young?
In their free time? Well, there were no TVs. We'd go out in the streets and roam around and well, about what ages would you?
Well, both young age and older age. Like
Okay.
when you were 10, what did you do?
Okay.
And when you were a teenage?
Okay, when we were 10, we used to make skateboards.
How would you make them?
We get a 2x4 and a lemon box. Boy, the lemon boxes were nice and solid, in them days. You get a lemon box and you put a 2x4, you nail the lemon box on top of the 2x4. Then you get a skate and take it apart and put
roller skate?
Yeah, roller skate and put one end on each other and you'd nail it you'd nail it. They wouldn't even screw it. We'd nail them. And then everybody had a skateboard. And we go down 7th Street. Man, you get about 10 skateboarders going down 7th Street. The noise was terrific because them wheels were steel. And 7th Street was the only one that had black top. So you could go up 7th Street. And you had all the skateboards going up that street. And it was very noisy, but we had a lot of fun with the skateboards. And you would get a skateboard and you put on the box, you put a couple of cleats on it and they were your handles. And you'd go.
Cleats? What, cleats?
Yeah, a piece of wood.
Oh,
A piece of wood, and make it like a handlebar on a bicycle. Yeah. And then I think when I was about 13 or 14, they used to have beans here, right here where my house is at. And you'd have the big pile of, after they've been thrashing, they'd leave a pile of just the thrashing parts of the bean. And at the edge of they would drop little beans all around them, So we'd come and pick the beans. And I picked 50 pounds of beans at one time. Then I sold them at the bean house. And they gave me $7. So with them $7, my brother took me to Santa Barbara and I bought my first bike. And I brought the bicycle home. And it was one of them bikes that had wooden rims, stuff like that.
Really?
And they didn't have tubes. If you had a hole, there used to be, God, I can't remember his name, a fire chief. And the fire chief was right there on Linden and Carp Avenue, right in the corner, and he had a gas station. And he used to fix flats for the bicycles, and he'd poke a little rubber in there with glue, then cut it, and then he'd fill it up with air. And he used to fix the bicycles for us, the fire chief. And then, later on, I don't know how my mother did it. She went to Montgomery Ward's and bought me a brand new bicycle. I think she paid $17 for it, and she bought it on monthly payments. And I'm gonna telling you, I was a poor kid in town, but I had the fanciest bike in Carpinteria. Brand new bike. It had a tank, it had a horn, it had springs, a carrier, and a light, and boy, I'll tell you, I was somebody special in town with that bike. And
were there gangs in town then?
yeah,
Here?
gangs?
Gangs?
No, there was no gangs. There was just guys that got together. Nobody ever done any damage or hurt anybody.
Do you know if there were gangs in Santa Barbara or Ventura then?
When I was a teenager, Santa Barbara had gangs. Because I remember that we used to go to the dances when I was about 17. We'd go to the dances, and there was gangs that used to hang around, and we used to kind of get away from them. We were not there to fight the gangs.
What type of dancing did you do, and what type of music was it?
Because I must have been a crummy dancer, because I wasn't very good at that time. We used to go to the dance. They had a band, I think it had 4 people, and they used to call it Don Pedro's. And say, hey, who's playing? Well, who else? Don Pedro, the only band in town. So we used to go and to the dance there. And I got to go dancing with my wife before we got married to some of those dances, And yeah. Don Pedro, at the KP Hall in Santa Barbara. I don't know if you heard of the KP Hall. And yeah.
And when you got married to your wife, what type of things did you do before you had kids? Did you go to the movies, fishing?
Well, we used to go to the movies, and we started having kids. And I had a station wagon, and I'd fill the station wagon with kids, and we'd go to the drive-in. They'd had drive-ins there.
In Goleta?
In Goleta. We'd go to Goleta to the drive-in. And we'd go get in there with a bunch of kids in the back, you know, with blankets and everything. And it was kind of fun. We all figured out ways to entertain ourselves, you know. And it was a way, I guess, of just growing up and getting older, you know. But all my kids were very good kids. And they grew up to be great. They are wonderful kids. Especially my daughters. They spoiled the heck out of us. Yeah?
And really smart also.
Yeah.
What would you say was one of the happiest and saddest moments in your life?
Happiest? Well, my happiest days was meeting my wife. Because
Yeah.
she's the one that really made me happy. When I met her, I wasn't going to let this gal go.
And what would you say is your advice to have a good marriage?
My advice to have a good marriage is, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen. I mean, I don't know what to tell you, but we're going on 66 years of marriage.
Wow.
And we're still very happy. And as I went on, my wife was a good woman. She'd always figure a way to save money for me. She never threw it away. And I done pretty good. I ended up buying my house, and I've got a couple of houses in 9th Street, you know, that are rentals for me. And I done pretty good for growing up without an education, because I was just what you say, a 9th grade dropout. And we done real good. And all my kids, they still admire how I done what I did for the schooling that I had. And they admire me, because all my kids are college graduates, most of them.
And what advice would you give to kids of how to become happy and do well in life?
Well, the best thing to do
Being good.
is not to drink, gamble. I never done that. I mean, I drank a few. I mean, I'm not going to lie about it. I mean, I drink now and then. I would take a drink, but I never gambled. And I was always thinking of getting ahead. And it helped, because I done pretty good. I mean, up to now, I mean, I've still got my house. Everything is paid for. And I got my retirement from the school district, you know.
How about one of the saddest moments in your life? Do you recall, or would you want to share it?
Yeah, one of the saddest things, well, was when my mother died. Because my mother spoiled me so bad. Oh, God, I was her baby. When I went in the Navy 3 days later, I cried. I said, what am I doing here? My mother used to take coffee and Mexican bread in bed to me, and it spoiled me so bad, you know, that I was a spoiled kid. I had a good mother. She used to really spoil. As growing up, you know, as a widow, my mother done pretty darn good.
Do you recall any controversies in Carpinteria as you grew up? What was some things that people disagreed about, how things should be done? Anything come to mind?
I really can't think of stuff like that.
Okay.
I was always working, trying to support 5 kids. I didn't have time to think of any other thing.
Well, how would you like to be remembered?
Yeah? Just remembered? Oh, has been a good citizen, good daddy, and a good husband. Because if you can stand it 66 years with the same woman, you're doing pretty good.
Is there anything else you'd like to say about your life, or any other stories that come to mind of that's happened?
Well, if you want, what kind of stories would you think?
Any type of story.
Yeah?
Funny, interesting.
Okay, I'll tell you a story about us going to work one day. We had this truck, and actually I've got a little model in the garage of a truck like that. It's a 1931 Ford one-ton truck. Where my brother bought that truck, and he made it a dump truck. And he was always filling lots here in Carpinteria, selling dirt. So he sold quite a few, and that was just before the war when he done that, you know. Anyway, after he got through with that truck and came back, he sold it to Cervantes, and he fixed that truck so where it would dump gradually, you know, what do you call it? It didn't have a motor, you would, gravity dump truck. He fixed it, he put some rollers on it and worked it with a brake, and anyway. So anyway, he sold it to Cervantes. So we are going to work, the Cervantes and we were already going, I don't remember exactly when it was, but we're sitting in the back of the tailgate of the truck, and the toolbox is in the front, and somebody took the brake off, and we're sitting on the tailgate of the truck, and we're coming here, Casitas, we're going to work, and Rudy and I are sitting in the back, and all of a sudden, we see the pavement, and we hit the pavement. The truck opened up, and we came down, and we hit the pavement. Man, we slid about 50 feet.
Wow.
He tore our Levi's pants, tore them, tore the shirt, and all of a sudden, boom, that thing came down, and they stopped wondering what happened, and then they came back and they picked us up again, and then they well, who took the brake off of this thing, you know, and they clipped it up. So they took us to the orchard. We were pruning trees. So they took us, we were all scraped, and you know what they were doing? Putting lemon juice on it. You should have heard the screams. Oh, God. Lemon juice on scars, you know. So
What was the reason for the lemon juice?
Yeah, for germs, to keep germs from getting into. Oh, he tore our shirts. We just slid on the, and good thing there was no car behind us, you know. Otherwise, we just went sliding down, and that was one of the funniest things. And
You won't forget.
you know the Cervantes. You don't remember the Cervantes at all, do you? Well, you know that Italian restaurant right next to Slice?
Yeah.
That place?
Gianfranco's?
Yeah, Gianfranco's. Well, they built that. The Cervantes built that, and I even helped build it. We helped build that building when we were teenagers. And then they opened a grocery store there. And that place has been a grocery or something ever since. So that's been there for 60, 70 years.
Are there any businesses in town now that were there 40 or 50 years ago?
Oh, yeah.
Like what businesses?
I don't know if you want to...
Can you turn it around? Yeah.
Right in the background,
That
you can see Donovan's beer joint way over in the corner.
Oh. It's,
Larry Donovan's dad used to run that.
something hut.
The Irish Hut.
Yeah, the Irish.
The Irish Hut. And then there used to be this laundry. The laundry there.
Right.
Yeah. And that was right in front of the Cervantes store.
Okay.
There.
But are there any stores today that have been there a long time?
Yeah. Stores.
Yeah, or businesses?
Well, yeah. You know where the Palms is?
Yes.
I used to have my shoe repair shop right next to the Palms. And then right next to them used to be Hope's grocery store, which is now the ice cream shop.
Yeah.
Vil Pando ice cream shop and the little taco place in there.
Don Roje?
Yeah, that used to be Hope's grocery store. And that was in the 40s and 50s. And then there was a big grocery store right on Carpinteria in Linden, right in the corner. I don't know if you've got that in your...
Am I documenting where the Bank of America is?
No.
Where
No,
Mills,
the
Mills
sushi.
Square? Oh, sushi.
Oh,
chair.
Giovanni's.
Yeah,
Giovanni's Pizza. You know that place real good. Yeah, there used to be a big grocery store right there, and I can't remember the name of it, but all the girls in town used to work there. Yeah, and then there was another grocery store across the street, right next to the drugstore. You remember the drugstore?
Mills Drugs?
Mills Drugs.
Yes.
Mills Drugs used to be there, and then there was a grocery store right next to it. And then there was a bank in the corner. And then there was a restaurant there in the corner there. And actually, what's his name that used to run? He's still alive. I can't remember his name.
How about showing me some of your photos now?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Like that. So
Okay.
what is that a picture of?
That's Cervantes Bruning Crew.
And where are you in that?
I'm not in there.
Okay.
My two brothers are there.
Okay.
And I'll tell you what, this picture is before the war.
Okay. And what are they pruning? What type
Lemon trees.
of lemon trees?
They're pruning lemon trees.
Okay, next photo.
Yeah?
Next photo.
Yeah. Oh, these guys?
Who are those guys? Let's see.
That's Marty Macias. You remember him? He had he was be a barber.
Yeah.
Marty and Lawrence and Danny Manriquez.
Nice.
And they all went to the war.
Okay.
Yeah. And Marty was in Okinawa in the typhoon, when they had the typhoon, and he was hiding in a pipe.
Really?
He says he was hiding in a pipe so he wouldn't blow away. Yeah. Yeah.
We had a few years.
Yeah.
But it rained a lot.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
To going to Nagasaki.
Your first ship? Yeah.
We were the first ones to go in before the army went in.
And what's
You
that
see,
a picture
that's
of?
Nagasaki, where the bomb was dropped.
Oh, wow. The
The atomic bomb.
atomic bomb.
Yeah.
And you went there after the bomb was dropped?
Yeah.
Did you have radiation problems?
No, we didn't go in where they dropped it. We were saying we're in Summerland,
Yeah.
and we're looking at it from there.
I see. And
Yeah.
you weren't too close to be
No,
affected?
our captain wouldn't let us go down there.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, but that's Nagasaki. That's what's left of it.
How did you feel about that? Was it sad that it was so wiped out?
I was too young. I didn't pay much attention to it, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, here's where the war was over. Can you read it?
Let's see. All ships. The president has announced that the war is over with Japan. Stop. Japan has accepted our peace terms. Stop. General MacArthur has been named Supreme Allied Commander. Who did that go to?
Yeah?
Who sent that?
I guess we got it from another ship, into my ship.
Oh, that came to your ship. That's
Yeah.
very interesting.
Yeah.
Hold it there one other moment. Can you angle it a little bit?
This way?
Yeah, that's better. Good. Wow. Okay, that's neat.
Yeah. And here's some of the guys on Liberty in Nagasaki.
Nice.
Okay. And then, let me tell you, we were on a convoy of about 60 ships going to Nagasaki. So they sent 3 LSMs ahead of the convoy. They said, all ahead, blast. Man, we were going 15 miles an hour and we left the convoy. We pulled away. I said, we're so important, they're sending us ahead, you know. So there's a minefield up ahead. All mines floating all over the place. So it took off, blowing them up. Yeah, we're so important, they sent us ahead. So we got there a day before the convoy got there. So next morning, the convoy comes in.
And the mines didn't get you?
Oh, there was no, we had a destroyer escort. He was blowing them up. The ones we could see, you know. So anyway, so we made it, and we're watching the army come in. And they came in. We're up on a hill watching them come in. They came in, and I mean by the thousands. It was like watching a movie. And they came in by the thousands on the little boats, you know, and they eat at the beach and they landed. And they came marching up a street loaded with everything, and they even had their ammunition boxes and all their packs, and boy, those poor soldiers really get loaded, you know. And they marched up a street. They marched up a street by the thousands, and I don't know where they went, because then we pulled out. So we used to unload what we had when we went to Nagasaki. We had machine shops, portable machine shops, trucks on wheels, and these Marines were in charge of them, and they took off with them. So where they went, I don't know. They just went up a street, and they didn't go where the bomb was dropped. They went to another area.
Do you remember when the atomic bomb was dropped, what you thought about it, or what you...
I didn't even know about it.
Huh.
We just heard that they dropped a bomb and the war was over.
Huh.
Yeah.
Do you remember the moment you heard that?
We didn't hear the bomb.
Right, but do you remember the announcement the war is over?
Yeah, I think we were in Saipan when that happened, because we used to get cargo in Saipan and take it to Okinawa. We would used to go back and forth, moving cargo. So we didn't stay in one place too long.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
What other photos? Do you have more
Huh?
photos, or is that it?
Let's see. Well, these were photos.
What?
I don't know if you're interested
I'll
in
look
that.
at it. Yeah, what's it up?
That's up in Nagasaki, somewhere.
Hold it right there. Okay. And tell me again, what's that a photo of?
Aliso School.
In about what year?
During the war, 1940s, about 42, 43.
And were you,
I'll tell you, all the guys in that top line, they all went to the war in that photo. Everybody on top. They were all in their 15 and 16.
and are you in that picture?
Yeah.
Point to yourself.
Let's see, where am I? I'm still the guy there with his hands folded.
Okay, yeah.
I don't know if I can point it.
Well,
Holding it.
we saw it before. Okay.
Yeah.
Very good.
Right. Aliso School graduation.
Uh-huh.
And see all them guys up there?
Yeah?
They all went to the war. Except the fat one, he didn't go.
Why not?
They didn't like that.
He wasn't, I think he died.
Uh-huh.
He had a heart attack and died. Yeah, Alex Gonzalez.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
Well, an
You
excellent...
probably, you probably knew some of these guys. You remember Joe Scareño?
The name's familiar.
Yeah. He's the one right here in the corner. Right here in the corner. That's Joe Scareño.
Are you in that picture?
No.
Okay.
They graduated before me.
Uh-huh. Gotcha.
Yeah.
They were a little
30s.
So what is that a picture of in the 1930s?
What are they? Wolf?
Are you in that?
Wolf Cubs? No, heck no.
Oh, but it's Wolf Cubs?
Yeah.
It's kind of like Boy Scouts today?
Yeah, like Cubs, you know, like,
Got it.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And that,
This is your
put
cousin.
my finger on him down here. He's the one that joined the Marines in Juarez. And that was before his dad took him to Mexico.
Uh-huh.
Ruben Loza.
Okay.
Yeah.
Here's another Aliso picture. About what year would that be?
Yeah. Let's see. About, what would we say, 1941? I'm there kneeling down, right about the center. The best looking kid in there. You got it?
Point your finger at yourself. Oh, that one there?
Right here.
That is the best looking kid.
Yeah?
Okay, good.
Okay. When my sister was going to school. That was when I was a little kid. These are really old pictures.
So this is your sister in what school and about what year?
Probably 6th grade.
And about what year?
In the 30s, something I can't remember. I couldn't tell you.
Gotcha.
Because you know what? All these pictures don't have dates.
Yeah, that's funny.
None of them have dates on them. And I can't tell what date it was. Yeah, you got this one already.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right in the back.
Okay, I went to kindergarten here when I first started.
And that's where the pool is now?
Yeah, where the new gym is at the junior high now.
Right there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oops.
Nice. Got it. Okay.
Yeah. All these are people working at the packing house.
It's the lemon packing house.
Yeah, the lemon packing house.
About what year would that be?
This would be in about 1940, 47.
What did you do? What was the work in the packing house? How
Oh, they used to pack the lemons, pack them,
pack them in crates?
and
huh?
crates, yeah. And I've got a picture that I'm going to show you.
I'm gonna follow you to the
Yeah,
picture.
I've got this thing. I'm okay here with this?
Yeah. Here.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah. This is Grandma's living quarters. That's her special chair.
That's your special chair, huh?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Just get
Yeah.
the TV.
You
What you
ready?
gonna show me?
Okay.
What else?
Here's my two daughters, Graciela and Alice.
Oh, yeah. I only have 2 daughters.
Yeah.
I got boy,
Yeah.
and a paloma.
This is my mom, my dad, and my grandpa. I don't know where that picture was taken at, but my dad used to be a horse rider, and he always wear those stupid things. I don't know.
Okay.
That's Grandma's grandmother.
Yeah, dile que se tiene 100 years old.
Yeah.
But that was my grandma.
Yeah, this is one of our spare rooms here. Yeah. Yeah. And this is our bathroom here. I put in a special tub for Grandma here. See those walk-in tubs?
Nice.
Yeah. And yeah. This is my room. Yeah. And here's my wife when I was courting her. That's when I was chasing her. Okay, now here's that picture I want to show you. My wife packing lemons in 1947
Wow.
at the Goleta packing house. And she came out in a book and she came out in a newspaper in them days.
Nice.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, yeah, this is my junk room. I've got all kinds of movies here. And, yeah. Yeah, I was going through some pictures here and I got all the interesting ones.
Yeah.
Do you remember these guys? They had a band at Aliso. I don't know if you ever got them.
What was their name?
Yeah. Well, there's Albert Medell, you know him. And there was Mr. Dano, Eddie Ariano, Lorenzo Garcia, Ralph Loera, and Johnny Zaragoza. And they had a band at Aliso.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that used to be their band at Aliso. Yeah, some of these pictures you already saw.
Okay, can I see your workshop in the
Yeah.
garage?
Yeah?
And
In
you
the
have
garage?
a model to show me, I think.
Oh, yeah. Come on, you gotta see that model of mine. Yeah.
I'll follow you.
Okay. And this guy is Lawrence Cervantes. Him and I grew up together. And we met in Hawaii when we were in the Navy. And his ship had just been hit by a kamikaze and the whole bow was knocked off.
Whoa. Wouldn't want to be around those
No.
kamikazes.
Yeah. And this is another spare room here that we have.
Uh-huh. Nice.
Yeah. See some of these paintings, my boy Danny does them.
Oh, huh.
See like this painting here?
Honey,
He painted that.
Nice.
dile que tengo un...
Yeah. Yeah. Siéntese, siéntese. And he painted this here. See that?
Very
Danny
nice.
painted that.
Yeah.
Okay, now we'll go over here.
He's a painter.
Yeah.
You know, being
Yeah.
born a painter.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the Danny.
This is our party room. When we have parties, everybody wants to have it here because rain or shine, we can have the party.
Yeah, this is a
Yeah.
nice room.
Okay. Now this is my brother in Italy. My brother Louis is the one in the middle. You see? And he was given a Bronze Star for saving 9 guys from dying. They got caught in a place, and
This is his daddy.
yeah,
His daddy.
that's my daddy. Danny drew that.
Yeah, Danny made it with a pencil.
Yeah,
Really, very nice.
yeah. That one, no, grandma.
He
Okay,
looked exactly
Yeah.
the same.
okay.
Is
Yeah.
this the ship you were on?
Yeah, that's the LSM 448. And see how they beach?
Oh, they're on the beach there.
Yeah, that's after I was gone. That's way later. So that guy had a color
But
camera.
This is your actual boat, huh?
Yeah. See right here?
Hold on a second. Okay. Oh, this is a model of it?
This is a model. This is all wood. Guy made it out of wood for me. And see how we carry tanks, trucks, whatever.
Where would you sleep?
Down here.
Oh, I see. Down below.
They were close quarters, I'm telling you, because that thing was flat bottom. See? The
So
bottom
it
is
could go
flat.
Right up to the
beach.
right up to the beach.
Yeah. See that one? Danny drew that.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, he's pretty good, the artist. And this is leaving Nagasaki. We're leaving Nagasaki there. So.
Okay. Well, good job, Sal. Thanks for the interview.
Hey, well, thank you for coming down. I enjoyed it.
Any parting words you want to say? Do you
Yeah.
have any philosophy, any words you live by to be a happy, good person?
Well, I'm just happy that I'm still here and I'm still alive to talk about it. All right.
Okay.
And I'm being very happy here with my wife. So, and I've got all my kids, they all come down and see us, and we really have a good time getting together. Okay.
Thanks a lot, Sal.
Okay. You're welcome.